Thank you for attending this Webinars Now event. And this is an event that we hold every month, first Thursday of every month. So I'm Dave Lundahl, the founder and CEO of Insights Now. I'm here today with Noel Anderson, who is the principal for Mosaic Food Advisors. And we are excited to talk with you about some insights that we've kind of discovered about consumers underlying the free from food movement. And these insights have some new research techniques that we're really excited about presenting to you today to help you make faster, more informed business decisions. So first of all, let's just do a little bit of homekeeping, so to speak. There's various chat boxes and stuff like that, and things that you can type in information if you want to pose a question. Just look at the little stuff on the sidebar here, and we'll be glad to wrap up with you during the end of this when we have some Q&A. So, a little bit about Insights Now. One of the things that we really believe is that if we change the way we look at people and why products succeed or don't succeed at times, we will improve the speed to and success in market. Therefore, we're a behavioral marketing research company. That means we really believe that if you can really look at people and understand not only what they do, but why they behave as they do, then it's going to really help you make more informed decisions. So today we're focusing on the subject of insights for clean label decisions, impacting basically all three of these areas which we work in, that is marketing and messaging, brand positioning and planning, and innovation and product development. So the free from food movement, what is this? We've heard so much about it. There's been a lot of materials written. And if you think about people and what's changing in terms of consumer behavior, one of the biggest changes today is that consumers are asking for things that are not artificial. They want their foods that are free of additives, no artificial ingredients. They want things that are all natural. And you can see here increases in the various different markets today in terms of how much these new products are increasing just in the last year. So it is very clear that this free from food movement is gaining momentum and is impacting the industry in a broad way. In fact, if you look at this slide, some research that was done by Nielsen, you see that the free from food movement is impacting nearly every food category that there is, from salty snacks all the way to yogurts and wholesome snacks and ice creams and you name it. So it's really impacted things a lot. So because of this, for the last year at Insights Now, my company, we've been working on this, and we've been working with people like Noel Anderson, who has a tremendous amount of industry experiences. In particular, there's a lot of challenges that are surrounding around this free from food movement. Some of the largest food retailers in the industry have banned some 250 ingredients from their stores. I mean, what a ripple effect this is having on the industry, as not only food companies are seeking to put products that fit the needs of consumers that are more natural and so on and so forth, but also the ingredient suppliers are working really hard to try to develop various different new ingredients that consumers will accept as being more natural and not addressing the concerns that they have. So to face this immense change and these challenges, researchers throughout the food industry are finding that they have gaps in what their knowledge is about consumers in terms of what it is that they're really seeking and why they are doing what they're doing, so that they would know how to respond respectively to these challenges. So back in September of this year, we actually did a survey to the industry and found that the packaging design, communications, consumer targeting communications, and in product development to understand sensory trade-offs were some of the three biggest areas of gaps that consumers had, that so many researchers had throughout the food industry to knowing how to make smarter, more informed business decisions. So, with that said, I'd like to turn this over to Noel Anderson. And Noel, if you could please give a little bit about yourself and then talk about, how, from your perspective, from your many years' experience, how you're seeing this free from food movement impacting the industry.
Well, thank you very much, Dave, and I'm really pleased to be able to be part of this webinar today. So as Dave said, my name is Noel Anderson, and what I'd like to do today is really provide the product developer's perspective, particularly that perspective of a product developer at a large food manufacturer working on major brands. And as you'll see in a second, I think I'm pretty qualified to do this. I spent 18 years in R&D at General Foods and Kraft, most of this time in product development. Basically, you name the product, I worked on it, whether it be Jell-O ready-to-eat pudding and gelatin snacks, Post cereals, Kraft mac and cheese, salad dressings, etc., etc. Then I left Kraft and spent the last 19 years at PepsiCo, working on things like the Lipton and Starbucks partnerships, Aquafina, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Tropicana, as well as Quaker Foods. So I have an awful lot of experience in this space and really like to provide that point of view. So next slide, please, Dave. So when I think about the two major things I learned in my career, and that spanned these 37 years primarily in product development, the first one was that you can't react to what consumers say. You need to understand and react to their behaviors to truly understand the voice of the consumer. In order to do this, you really need research methodologies that help you create these insights on consumer behaviors. And this is one of the reasons I'm really excited to work with Dave, because this is all about behavioral research. The second thing I learned, and this is going to hit manufacturers really hard, and that the hardest challenge a product developer faces is making any type of ingredient change to an existing brand while trying to make that change invisible to the consumers. The heavy users know their products extremely well, and they're going to react many times negatively to what we would think to be very minor changes. So when you think about these two challenges, I don't think they've ever been more important to fully understand than in today's free-from environment. Next slide, Dave. So let's bring this to life and just talk briefly about two recent examples. And both of these have been in the press lately, and hopefully you've read about them. First one comes back from PepsiCo, where I worked for 19 years, and that's Diet Pepsi. It's a huge brand, and they decided to react to the consumer sentiments and remove aspartame from their formulation and replace it with other high-intensity sweeteners. This addressed a consumer concern to be free from APM, and it also helped, from a technical point of view, improve the sweet quality taste over its shelf life. So for those that have followed the CSDs in the press, what happened? The brand users complained, resulting in having to reintroduce classic Diet Pepsi. So to set up the rest of the presentation, I'd like you to think about what went wrong in this case and why. Did the consumers pick up differences they didn't like? Again, lots of questions about what might have gone wrong. The second example is from General Mills and Trix. They also reacted to consumer demands to be free from artificial colors, artificial flavors, and eliminate high fructose corn syrup. Again, within a fairly short period of time of introducing this product, they had to change back and reintroduce the artificial colors, flavors, and high fructose corn syrup. So again, same questions. What went wrong and why? Clearly, as you see in the picture, there was a huge difference in appearance, so that might have been one hint. And maybe a question here, would they have been successful if they kept the artificial colors to maintain the appearance, but removed the artificial flavors and high fructose corn syrup? Next slide, please, Dave. So again, as you think about this rest of this presentation and these two examples, I'd like you to consider the following. Number one, do you know how to get the right insights from your consumers such that the business can make the best business decision possible? How do you know when to change and when you should stay pat with the current formulation? What changes will the consumers be willing to accept or not accept? Secondly, do current consumer testing methodologies and approaches provide the right insights and learnings? If they did, what happened with Diet Pepsi and Trix? What went wrong? Third and finally, how do you convince senior management that taking the correct path forward may not seem like the right thing to do when you listen to the very vocal free-from movement and possibly not fully understand from a behavioral point of view what they say may be different than what they do when it comes to making their purchase decisions? So food for thought for the rest of the presentation. Back to you, Dave.
Okay, thanks, Noel. Yeah, so really the rest of this presentation is really addressing these challenges as so well posed by Noel. How do you overcome these clean label challenges? To do that, let's look at what has been shown in the news. Food Business News back in September said, oh, baby boomers are driving the clean label trend. Well, is this true? Is it all about boomers that are the consumers behind this trend? Back in September also, we gave a presentation. It was myself and Sarah Kirkmeyer, who's a senior director here at Insights Now. And we focused specifically on millennials and found that millennials have a very different perspective from many other consumers in some cases. So that there is differences. So it's not just baby boomers, but millennials are also contributing to what you're seeing in the marketplace, this free-from movement. So to ask the question, who are these people? Who are these enthusiasts that are really looking at clean label? How do they act? Why do they act? And then what can we do about it? So what we have been doing for the last year is doing research into this group. And we've found a segment of the U.S. population of primary shoppers that have very strong beliefs and aversions to food additives and artificial ingredients. And we're really focused on this group. We also know that this same group has ingredients have a very big effect on what they buy. They look at the front panel and the back panel of labels, especially when products are new to them, and they really have a definition. They can articulate that definition of what is a clean label, even though they may not use the word clean label itself, but they definitely can articulate what it is. And what we found is when we look at this is that clean label enthusiasts are represented equally against general pop demographics for the silent gen, the boomers, the Gen Xers, and millennials. There's no statistical difference between clean label enthusiasts and those consumers that are not clean label enthusiasts. We also found that there is very few regional differences, with the exception here is in the West, where in the West there is a higher percentage of clean label enthusiasts, which suggests that this trend is being driven from the West into the Midwest, South, and further back east. So it's very interesting. We've also found that there are no differences in demographics such as income and household size between these people that are clean label enthusiasts. They tend to be women and primary shoppers that do most all the shopping in their households. But what's most interesting here is that clean label enthusiasts are very different from a psychographical. What I mean by psychographical is that the beliefs they have about ingredients are different and also often misinformed. For instance, if you ask them various questions about various topics that have been cycled throughout the internet, such as MSG is dangerous, the science in, or juices have some food from some food companies have been found to contain formaldehyde, saccharin may cause cancer, some approved artificial colors have been linked to ADHD in children, and so on and so forth. You'll find that clean label enthusiasts tend to have a much higher percentage of believers that these statements are in fact true. In fact, 9 of 10 clean label enthusiasts believe that 40% or more of the misinformed statements they read online are true, versus just 6 in 10 for non-clean label enthusiasts. And what this shows is that people are feeding their points of view. Once you have an established point of view, it colors, it impacts what sort of sources that you continue to read from, you tend to look for, you search for. Basically, consumers have confirmation bias. They will seek out the information sources that fit with their point of view, and they have disconfirmation bias. It means that no matter whenever something new that disconfirms their point of view, they tend to not believe it as true. So this is impacting, and you see it in our research on social media. So a lot of trusted sources, clean label enthusiasts tend to trust either the magazine or online feeds. They tend to have a higher percentage of trusting sources such as these self-proclaimed industry watchdogs, naturalnews.com or foodbabe.com. They tend to believe this information, and that's driving a lot of the beliefs that they're seeing. And what this is also doing is impacting then their shopping behavior, specifically with regard to labels. So, clean label enthusiasts, huge differences. To a great extent, I read ingredient labels, new products, 82% versus just 32% amongst those that are non-clean label enthusiasts. Avoid foods with too many chemicals. Avoid buying brands due to ingredients. Very impactful. Brands are really important, and you're seeing some huge differences in this. They also tend to eat a lot more stated fruits and vegetables. And really interesting is that those retailers that I mentioned earlier that are banning various different lists of ingredients, it doesn't seem to really matter to neither clean label enthusiasts nor the regular consumer, because very few of them tend to be influenced by that in deciding where they shop for their food products. Also, we're finding some things about sustainability, that there's an element of shopping behavior amongst clean label enthusiasts that is rooted in supporting sustainability and buying brands that support sustainability causes. Very interesting. So what do we do about this? What can we do to influence the shopping behavior of clean label enthusiasts as well as other consumers? And so if you look at claims in the front panel and you look in the ingredient names on the back panels, these are some of the two areas that we found that have the greatest opportunities. So if you look at claims alone, and we did a lot of research on clean label enthusiasts, you find that natural, GMO-free, organic are the most sort of biggest differences between clean label enthusiasts and non-clean label enthusiasts. Flipwise, best price value trade-off, easy to prepare, convenience, and so on tend to be more important amongst non-clean label enthusiasts and clean label enthusiasts themselves. So these sort of requirements of natural, GMO-free, and organic are key. And we see that no matter what category consumers are shopping for, that these three stand out across the board for all categories. However, if you look at other sort of claims, brand authenticity, trust, freshness, pure, simple, sustainability, these sort of things tend to be delighters, and it depends on the category. For instance, in breakfast cereals, we see that brand trust and authenticity amongst clean label enthusiasts is really high versus packaging sustainability is less. Now, if you look at the same breakfast moment, but breakfast meat products, you see fresh and farm sustainability much higher in terms of important to influencing the shopping decision as a delighter amongst clean label enthusiasts. So the context of what people are shopping for, the category of food products does matter greatly in terms of understanding claims and understanding people's behaviors. Now, what about the back panel? So what ingredients are clean label enthusiasts reacting to? In order to address this problem, we actually developed a new method, a new technique. And this technique is based on a behavioral technique based on behavioral science called an implicit measure. And what implicit measures are is a scoring system that looks at not only what people react to, but also how long it takes them to react. Let me explain this. So what we did in this study is we looked at context. We provided people with a context like a typical or normal breakfast versus, as an example, I'm going to show you a grab-and-go breakfast as people were headed out for the day. And we asked them to select a various different type of food product that they eat in those, with a typical breakfast or a grab-and-go breakfast, and then gave them a bunch of ingredients that were relevant to that type of food product, and asked them, do you avoid it or is it okay? And then also measured how long it took them to respond. And when we did that, we saw some very interesting patterns. So we looked at, if you see the vertical axis here, which is time, how long it took them to respond. In the upper part of this, you see the various different ingredients under a normal or a grab-and-go breakfast that people responded to. So grab-and-go breakfasts tended to have, people had to think a lot more for these ingredients, whether they were okay or whether you would avoid them. Versus a normal breakfast, you see a lot of high avoidances, the stuff in the red here in the lower right-hand quadrant. So it's very different. So context matters greatly and how consumers react. But also, if you react fast, we know it's an emotional reaction. It's very fast. That means that it's either I'm going to avoid this. They don't have to think about it. But if it's a new ingredient or something that is, they have to think about the context, it doesn't really matter. You see some differences in trade-offs that consumers make. And you see also trade-offs amongst non-clean label enthusiasts, and the fact that they tend to have much smaller percentages of avoidances for most ingredients, as you would expect, since in comparison to clean label enthusiasts. So what we have been able to do with this sort of implicit test, and this is create what we call a clean label score. So a low score is people are high degree of avoidance, and they respond very quickly. So it's just a very negative reaction. And the highest score for a clean label score are those ingredients that are also very fast to react, but people are acceptance of it. They are not going to avoid it. And then in between, you have these sort of situations and ingredients where people will have very slow reactions because they're thinking about it either to avoid or decide to accept it as something that they would accept as part of a label, a product that they would buy. So what about this? So what we have done is we've developed a community, a clean label enthusiasts, and these are these consumers that are behind the Free From Food movement, and we've recruited them. We have a large community that's available now, and we're collecting information about these people, about their behaviors, about what are the underlying information behind that, and we're developing now a quarterly report. Our first quarterly report will be coming up in December, and this the food, we're calling a food behavior report. All subscribers would be able to get drill downs into various ingredient reactions based on this clean label score to actually provide content about claims that are underlying what is clean label, trends in ingredient avoidance, special topics such as sustainability, various strategies that we are seeing emerging and how to overcome some of these clean label challenges. And we're also providing custom quarterly reports specific to each of our subscribers where they can track clean label scores for up to 60 ingredients or brands or various different claims. And then in addition, we're providing some various engagement, clean label community engagement services. You can ask a question of the day. You can do a quick ingredient test. You can pull from and have from this community and quickly establish an online focus group, or send people off in missions or activities to post their findings and behaviors so that you can really understand not only why they're doing, what they're doing, but also why. So, summary. By researching and tracking the behaviors of these clean label enthusiasts and comparing them to other primary shoppers, we have discovered that consumers are changing, and they're driven by, various different sources of social media. The sources that they're looking at are impacting their behaviors, their beliefs, and this is translating into a lot of their concerns about various different products and the ingredients. We're also finding that the Free From Food movement is going mainstream. It's really in every facet demographically of our society here in the U.S. And we still believe it's growing because it's still driven west to east, and we are seeing this. This is, it's a trend that will continue for some time. It's here to stay. We also have found that we have learned how to start creating some new measures and metrics for insights that will help researchers, such as we've now created this clean label score to measure consumer reactions to ingredients, in context of various different food beverage applications. And we're now building a database of clean label scores by these clean label enthusiasts that those that are subscribing can get access to really understand the Free From Food movement and how to make smarter, faster decisions. And last, we've got these engagement services that by engaging with this community of clean label enthusiasts through questions of the day or online qual or surveys, you can learn more and respond faster. So to wrap up, I'd like to turn it back over to Noel. And Noel.
Thanks, Dave. So again, let's just briefly go back to the two examples I brought up earlier. So if you know anything about these categories, both Diet Pepsi and Trix are in categories that are declining. So as I think about Dave's presentation, I wonder if the growth of the clean label enthusiasts was really responsible for a significant portion of this decline. If so, do we know what they switched to? How would you find out? Maybe you could do research with this new clean label enthusiast community to start to understand this for your brands. Secondly, I wonder if you made all of the changes that the clean label enthusiast community wanted. is it possible to do this without alienating too many of your heavy or core users? Obviously, there were some challenges in terms of how Diet Pepsi and Trix executed the changes. They didn't work. So again, how would you do this and get to the right balanced decision that led to the best business results? Next slide, Dave. Then finally, are all potential changes equal, or can certain trade-offs be made that better meet the business needs? For example, with Trix, could you use the implicit behavior technique David talked about and measure the time it takes to make a decision about whether they are willing to accept artificial colors, artificial flavors, and high fructose corn syrup? Would you potentially find that you would definitely need to replace the high fructose corn syrup and then possibly need to change from artificial to natural flavors, but maybe the change to artificial colorants or staying with artificial colorants isn't as bad to the consumer? Without doing the testing, you really don't know. Again, maybe a better decision could be made. So in conclusion, I think there are tremendous opportunities to make better business decisions if we use these new methods, tools, and reports that Dave presented to really understand this growing clean label enthusiast community much more deeply than we do today. Back to you, David.
Sure. This is a time where, in conclusion, I think we're really excited about this topic, about the opportunities that lie for the industry today to move forward, to make faster, smarter, more informed business decisions based on research. So we've asked those of you that are attending here today and participating, if you have questions, to pose them. And we actually have some questions that have been posed by some of you. So let me read some of these, and Noel and I will do our best to answer them. So the first question, is all your data US-based? Do you have any global insights on this subject? So I'll be glad to answer this. Currently, our clean label enthusiast community is a US-based community. However, we are being asked by a number of our subscribers or potential subscribers to move this internationally. So we actually are working on a rollout of a community in Europe, and we have plans as demand serves to move some communities and develop communities for other parts of the world, because this free from food movement is a global trend. And so there's great needs in Europe, there's great needs in Asia, and there's great needs in Latin America and other parts of the world. So the answer is not yet, but soon to come.
And just to build on that a little bit, working for a global company like PepsiCo, these challenges are truly global challenges. And to David's point, I think we will have to set up these capabilities on a global basis, because we need to understand the consumers within the context of their countries, of the context of their purchasing behaviors, etc. So more to come.
Yep. Okay. Second question. It's a really good question. How do clean label enthusiasts behave with respect to sugar? Do they just not want artificial sweeteners, or do they believe sugar to be addictive? Does it affect behavior at all? So Noel, I'm going to give you the opportunity to answer this one first.
Yeah, so this is obviously a tough one. And again, I think most of you that stay up with the press have found out that sugar is the next tobacco from a regulatory and consumer target point of view. So very controversial area. The one thing I've learned in my career is that no product's going to be successful unless it tastes great, and certainly sugar has played a major role in that. What the consumers are willing to change to versus what maybe they would have changed to 10, 20 years ago, I think is very different. There clearly are some people that are willing to accept artificial sweeteners, and that hasn't changed all that much, even though the categories within the diet soft drinks has gone down. Certainly, they'd like to see lower sugar. They still want it to taste the same. There's been a huge movement for flavor companies and other technological solutions to help enhance the sweetening effect of sugar so you can use less. But I don't know of any of these approaches that have worked to date. So to me, this is a prime area where working with these clean label enthusiast community would be very key to helping you to better understand what you can do and what you can't do. And sometimes the best solution might be that you need to stay pat with a current brand and you experiment new sweetener systems with new brands. So Dave?
Yeah, what I would add from a behavioral science perspective, what we've found, and the theme that carried through hopefully to everyone from this presentation today, is that context matters. So people's reaction to sugar or artificial sweeteners and so on and so forth is really dependent on the context of the use case for a consumer. So it depends on the category of product. It depends on the occasion, and depends on the moment, whether consumers are, for instance, in a grab-and-go moment for a breakfast occasion, or at a leisure or a normal breakfast moment at home. So, as an example, and so context matters. So, in the research methodologies and techniques that we're posing, we're finding that including context in all your research is essential to really understand how to move forward, whether with the sugar or other sort of sweeteners for a product. Okay, so last question here. What can you tell me about consumers' concern about wanting to know more about how the products are made? And this is getting to the question of transparency, I believe. And it's an area that we really didn't touch on in this in this today. But transparency, we are seeing, is a key concern that many consumers have, especially those that are clean label enthusiasts. So it's a special topic that we'll be delving into in the future in some of our reports. But people really want to know not only what is in a product, but how a product was made, not only from the manufacturer's perspective, but throughout the whole supply chain. And that gets to a lot of the questions of sustainability. They really want to know a lot about the product and how it was made, how it came to be what it is, and so that it fits with their ideals, as well as fitting with the concern of things that are maybe not on the label that they are concerned about that came from the agricultural perspective, like pesticides and things like that. Noel, do you have anything to add with that?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add is this is an area that I've seen grow tremendously over the last 19 years at PepsiCo. People are very interested in knowing more about this. So I think David's exactly right in what he said. I think the challenge to the food industry is how do you communicate some of these things much more effectively than we have, because I don't think the answer is going to be as simple as replacing all these complex sounding ingredients with other simpler sounding ingredients, if indeed they're providing functional benefits, which from my experience, we really don't add anything to a food or beverage if it isn't there for a functional reason. So it's a huge challenge from my point of view as a product developer, and one again that I think we need new tools and methodologies to better understand what we can and what we cannot do going forward.
Good. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope this was a webinar that you were able to glean some insights, some information that was helpful in your work life and helpful to the various different projects that you may be working on. So every first Thursday of every month, look for Insights Now's webinars now, and we're looking forward to having more of you back. And so if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to myself or Noel. If you're interested in the clean label enthusiast community and the various different services, please reach out to me, because I would be glad to give you sort of information on how you can become a subscriber and to be able to apply some of the methods and techniques that we went over today. All right, everyone have a great day. Thank you. Thank you, Noel.
Thank you, Dave, and thanks to everyone for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.